So I say again that when you listen to this video, you hear me again. Your manufacturing will always consist of two questions. The first question would always be about the production cost statement, the factory overheads, stuff like that. The second part will always be about the break-even point, some or other way. When they ask you to comment on costs, you always go look at, and it's usually they will ask you about your variable costs. So then you go and you comment on the per unit, okay? And if it's material, it would be the supplier, it would be wastage. If it's labor, it would be training, it would be overtime. If it's selling and distribution, you use marketing. That's the easiest reasons. If they ask you to comment on the fixed cost, you always have in your mind economics of scale, right? In other words, your total fixed cost increase, but the per unit decrease. Why? Because you produced more units. Okay, and then you say it's economics of scale. They did one exam, do it that the fixed cost increased and the per unit increased because the units didn't increase. And that they wanted you to write the non-economics of scale, which I was like, what? But in any case, so just remember economics of scale. Okay, so now let's go. Prepare the production cost statement. So they already gave me the format. We started yesterday, right? So let's go. I see work in progress. Remember, they can also say work in process. It's the same thing. So and also remember to check your years, because this is not a company. If it was a company, it would have had limited in its name. So it means they can swap it. They don't have to follow IFRS. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So now, this is the opening balance. You go put it in, right? The closing balance would be a bracket. Now, then I go look. They give me direct material cost, 1575. I write it there because there might be adjustments. The other says direct labor is the only one I need, and factory overheads. So factory overheads, I put it in because I can see there's errors and omissions, meaning mistakes and forgot to put in. Payment to quick deliveries for carriage on raw material was incorrectly allocated to selling and distribution cost. Okay, so now, in other words, it's raw material, so it makes my direct material cost more. Okay, next one. The entire insurance amount was transferred to admin, but 2/3 should go to the factory. So I can just work out 2/3 of that 25 and put it in the 16,800. Okay, there's the calculation. The factory overhead cost includes, so it's already added, an amount of 117,600 for water and electricity. The bookkeeper did it wrong, you see. So I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to take it out. You can do the overstated, understated thing. But I think it's easier and it's quicker if you just cancel what's wrong and put in what is right. So I cancelled what is wrong, and now I'm going to calculate what is right. So if I look what is right, they say here, they incorrectly allocated this as 631. But it was supposed to be 541. Now can you see the total here is 10 and the total here is 10. But here we allocated 6/10, but we only wanted to allocate 5/10. So I am going to swap. I'm going to take the wrong amount. I'm going to reverse. Can you see we must did 6 over 10? So I'm going to times 10 over 6. And now I'm going to look what is the correct one. The correct one was 5 over 10. And then I get the 98,000, not 980. Okay. And then I add. And there's my factory overheads now. So now I go and I add. So I say 255 plus 516. Please, guys, do the totals because that's easy principal marks. Okay. 2, 3, 6, 6, 10, 3. And now I just add that. And now I need work in process the end of the year, which they didn't give me. Okay, remember? And I need the cost of production. Now remember, this cost of production is not the cost of sales. Be very careful. That cost of production is literally, if I draw a T account for finished goods, opening, closing, work in process, cost of sales. That cost of production is the cost of all the new stuff that I produced. So in other words, you have 2 ways that you can do it if they don't give it to you. Okay? You can either do a T account for finished goods, and if they give you cost of sales and the balances, and balance on the cost of finished goods, or you can go look if they gave you the production cost and the units produced, then you can also calculate it. So let's see what did they give me. They give me 7,600 shirts were produced at a cost of 420. 8,1 was sold. How is it possible that they sell more than they produced? They had stock from last year left over unsold. Right. So that's 7,600. And the unit cost was 420. Now I can get my total cost of production, which is what? Three one. And now I reverse. And when I reverse, I say 3192 less 329, and that gives me like that. Okay. Okay, so apparently I didn't calculate this one, so I'm actually losing a very easy principal mark. How will I calculate this one? I just balance. So I'm going to reverse. I'm going to say 255 less 165. That gives me what? 900,000. Like that. Okay. Don't do stupid things like your teacher, eh? So here we go. 212. Please, I constantly do this. Don't do it. Don't read your question on the answer book. Go to your question paper and read your question here, because it might be that they give you extra info. And if the question paper and the answer sheet is different, you always follow the question paper, not the answer sheet. So, calculate the gross profit earned on sale of shirts. So what is the gross profit? Gross profit is sales less cost of sales. Nee. They gave me sales. They said sales is 8,100 t-shirts. Nee. And they already told me it is what? 4,860. So that was given. Already a mark. If you write any other nonsense there and you get an answer, a principal mark. So already you got 2. Okay. So now I need cost of sales. So what did I tell you? I told you, can you see? Here we have work in process here, né? Because we calculated it there. There it is. So can you see I can use this T now to get the cost of sales. Okay. So I'm going to draw some of this little T here so that the marker can find it easily. Remember, this is just a calculation, so you write whatever you want. Ne? I'm not doing it like this. So now, if I look, my work in process, I'm going to transfer that. 3192. And for doing that, I already got a principal. Then, finished goods. Oh my goodness. There they give me inventory valuations. Can you see that? So now I just want to cry. But I'm not going to cry because I'm stronger than that. And I see, oh, they gave me the opening. Before I cry, let's just see the positive. They gave me the opening. So already I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, they won't give. Okay, they marked it different. Okay, but it doesn't matter. Let's go. So how will I do 400 t-shirts valued at 54? At 54. Now we have to see, did they give me information? No, they didn't. So how am I going to do this? Anybody? Anybody with an idea how I will do this? Because I'm lost. Okay, let me pause. What do you need for the calculation of FIFO? Remember, usually it works like this, ne? They must give you the opening, the purchases, and the closing. And the purchases would usually have a few batches. And which batch do you use usually? The last one. Okay. Now, what do they give you here? Nothing. They don't give me anything. What is the only thing that they tell me? They tell me the production cost. Okay. So, this is obviously the latest ones, because what would be the ones before the latest ones? The opening one. So in other words, in this example, we don't have purchases. Ne? Why don't we have purchases? Because we have production. We make the stuff. Right? So they already gave me the opening. So if you calculate that, can you see it gives you 380? They tell you it's 380. But now when we go to next year, this year, now it's 420. So this is the newest batch. So you're just going to say 400. Ne? 400 times 420. And that's going to give me what? 1. And then I balance. You see? And what's my cost of sales then? Okay. Is there another way that we could have done it? Can I ask? Is there anybody else who thinks that there's a way we could have done it? Because I'm thinking here, yeah, there's no other way. Okay. You guys with me? Yes. There she is. Now, let's do the markup. So markup is gross profit on cost of sales. So it's 1494 over, can you see you're going to get full marks here. Why are you going to get full marks here? Because absolutely everything is a transfer. You see? So they make it 2 marks, so it's 2 bagel marks. And what's the percentage? Remember, you must have the 100 in there, ne? That you times with 100. You don't have to have the percentage, but you must have the 100. Now, how much is that? Come, anybody? 44%.
0.39.
Okay. Isn't it easier to watch the So, next one. Next one says, so we've done all of this, it's done. Now we go to the second one. So, second one, leather manufacturers is owned by Tello Andrews. They produce leather purses and leather jackets. Now remember, because it's 2 separate items, it means you're going to do everything twice. If I ask you a raw material tea account, you're going to have 2 separate ones. You're going to have separate work in process, separate everything. Because why do we go through that whole procedure? To see the cost of making that product so that I can calculate the sale price. So obviously you can't just put all of them together. Okay. So here we go. Calculate the break-even point for purses. So the break-even point for purses, here we go. Total fixed cost. Total, remember, draw your line here, that you don't write too much, because they're going to cut off this side to scan in your paper. Okay, so draw a little, somewhat rough line, that you don't write in here. Okay, so it's going to be total fixed cost over selling price per unit less variable cost per unit. And you don't even have to write that down. Okay, because you're not getting marks for that. So now let's see. They give me here, for what am I busy? I am busy with purses, so it's this one. Ne? So my total fixed cost is 936. Right? My selling price was 295. Now I use per unit. And the variable cost is 255. If they don't give you the variable cost per unit total, you will add direct material, direct labor, selling and distribution, the 3 Ds. Okay, DDD. Okay, and this gives me what? I have a contribution here of 40 Rand, so that gives me how much? 23,000 units. 23,400 units.
Is there a must to write units?
No. Rather, in these days, it's safer not to write anything if you're not sure. If you are sure, write it. But the problem is, if you now go and put a rand there, they're going to mark it wrong. So rather write nothing. Okay, 222. Comment on the level of production achieved and the break-even point. Now, they do not want you to say, the level of production increased from this to this, the level of break-even decreased from, they don't want that. They want to see that you know you should compare the two and make a conclusion if we made a profit or a loss. That's what they want. And the safest thing, and they only want 21. So I would still quote both.
Yeah.
I would say, I would go look here, and this is for purses, So purses have a break even now of 23,400. Is that right? So what I will do, personally is I will look here. I will see, did we make a profit or a loss here?
In 2020 we made a loss.
In 2020, the break even, we made a profit of 1,100 units. Next, so I will say, in 2020, business made profit on 1,100 units. Ne? Because now, if you say that, the marker can see. To get the 1,100, you compared the production and the break even. Okay. Now let's look at 21. I'm still making a profit, but it's less. Can you see that? The profit is now on 600 units. Can you see that? Because your break even is 23,400. What does that mean in English? It means once I produce 23,400 units, I break even, meaning I don't make a profit and I don't make a loss. Everything I produce more than that is a profit. So the profit would be on 600 units. So you say, in 21, they make less profit. Or they make, you can't say less because maybe the markup is in such a way that they actually make more profit. They make less profit. They make profit on less units. So they make profit on less units. 600. Remember always figures.
Ma'am, can you just say that they're still making a profit, but less than in 2020?
Yes. So when we mark this, you will see that the memo will usually say, if you say the production, so this is an old paper, this is 2020. Remember, you are already in 2025, so you'll see, remember the previous papers we did, they didn't even ask you to calculate the break-even point. What did they do? They would say, prove the break-even point. So already they changed the way that they are asking. So you'll see in the newer papers, you would have the correct break-even points because it makes it easier to mark here. Because remember now, I have to work on your answer there. And a lot of kids do weird stuff. They would make this a per unit as well. Then the units here would be 0.0072. So then obviously they are making a profit, you see. So it makes it very difficult to mark. So that's why in these days they give you the break even. You have to prove it, or like we did in a previous paper now, what they love to do is they don't ask the break even point, but you have to use the calculation. Like they say, how many units must I produce to make 5,000 Rand extra profit? Then you use the break even point. That's the new way. Okay. So the way they mark it, so on this paper here, you might see that they give you marks if you said the production increased from this to this and the break even increased from this to this. The newest way that they mark it, and I know because I'm always the lucky one of marking manufacturing, is we have to look. If you wrote the production increased from this to this, the break-even point increased from this to this, we give you 2 marks. Okay? You don't get a mark for each one. I have to choose which one I mark and I give 2 marks. If I can see, in other words, if I can see that you know you made a profit and you quote the figure, you get 4 marks. So, in answer to your question, if you say they made less profit than 2020, but they still made profit on 600 units, I want to see the word profit and I want to see the units. You guys sharp? Apart from oh, you see what I'm doing? What am I doing wrong? I'm reading the answer book. I must go to the question paper. And you know, this happens because we're in a rush all the time, eh? Okay. So now, apart from inflation and wages, give two other possible reasons for the increase in direct labor. So you can't say, oh, we paid them more. Okay. So why did the labor cost increase per unit? What did I tell you? What is always the reason you give? Overtime. They worked more overtime. Ne? So there's two ticks. Can I say there we employed more workers? Please no. Because this is not about how many workers we have. Ne? This is about how much does it cost per unit being produced. Okay. So what else can I say? Okay, you can say they got bonuses, they got Christmas bonus. They got Christmas bonuses in February. Huh?
Elizabeth is against giving bonuses.
Why?
She says you aren't doing your job.
No, it's an incentive, ne? Why? Trust me, once you start working, you would enjoy getting the bonus. So let's talk again in 10 years. Okay, what else can you say? Why would it be, ne, that the wages per unit increases? Meaning, why are workers taking longer to make this stuff? Workers are not, you employed new workers who were not trained, so they work slower. Ne? Because what is it about? And I know I say this every day, but in the hope of you guys actually remembering it. Moshe Piardi works for me. She gets 100 rand a day. Ne? She knits jerseys. At this stage, Moshe Piardi takes 1 day to knit 1 jersey. What is the the labor cost per unit for jerseys? 100, because she's being paid 100 rand and she knits 1. I send her for training, and now she's like a machine. She comes back and she's now suddenly knits 2 jerseys a day. Ne? Am I going to pay her more? No, she still earns 100 rand a day. What is now my labor cost per unit? 50 rand. Can you see? Because, why? Moshe Piardi is working more productively. Okay, what would make Moshe Piardi work less productive? It could be, okay, so they're making leather and stuff, the machine broke. So she had to wait for the machine to be fixed before she can work. You get what I'm saying? So now it takes longer. Ne? What else? Load shedding. Why load shedding? Because now load shedding is from 12 to 2. Ne? Can they work? No. Must I pay them? Yes, because they at work. So now they're going to take longer to make the product because of the fact that they were idle for 2 hours. Now if I ask you, how can I solve that problem? How can I solve that problem of them sitting there for 2 hours doing nothing?
What skills development?
I can give them training maybe, but not concerning anything needing electricity. We can maybe do team building in that time. But now I'm asking you, we are specifically talking about keeping the labor cost the same per unit. Meaning we need to make up that 2 hours. How can we make up the 2 hours?
Do you think that means manually?
Exactly. You all know. You download an app and you know when the load shedding is happening. So the manager, the factory foreman, needs to plan. So it's easy. If the load shedding is 12 to 2, you make their lunch hour 12 to 1. Ne? Then 1 to 2, you do the cutting of the leather. That's more the scissor. And what else can you do? The factory can install alternative methods of electricity, like a generator, right? Okay. Or let's say the load shedding starts 8 to 10. Then you tell them they only come in 10 o'clock and they work 2 hours later, which is not overtime, because overtime is not working in the dark. Overtime is working more than 40 hours a week. Okay. Give 2 reasons for the decrease in direct material cost per unit. Easiest, we changed suppliers or a cheaper supplier. That's the most easiest. The other one is less wastage. Why less wastage? Because maybe the material is a better quality, or maybe I trained my workers. But do yourself a favor and go right down, make a summary for yourself. I'm not going to show you how, because your brain works different than mine. But what you do is you have a thing where you say direct material cost, then you say increased, and then you give 2 reasons. Ne? Decrease, you give 2 reasons. Solve increase, you give 2 solving things. Ne? So 2 reasons why it increased, 2 reasons why it decreased, 2 ways to solve the problem. And you learn that off by heart, and you use it every time. That you don't get in a paper and you study like, you don't know where to go. Okay, next one. So now we get to 2.2.5. Now we're doing the jackets. So the jackets. Although Tello was aware that importing leather for jackets would increase the direct material cost per unit, he thought that this would improve the quality. Now, what happens when we import? We have customs, ne? We have customs, import duties, import tax. Okay, and your transport, your delivery fees are higher, because now you're using aeroplanes and ships, and then it's at the harbour and you still need to get it in Joburg. Okay. Although Taylor was aware that it's going to be expensive, he thought this would improve the quality of the jacket. So he is now catering for a higher class customer. Explain why the direct material cost per jacket would increase. 2 points. I already gave it to you. Import duties, carriage is going to increase. Okay. Provide figures to prove that Taylor was correct about the effect this decision would have on the cost of the jackets. Now let's quickly look. 2 figures. Can someone please put off their phone? Okay. So now, if I look at it, we want to see what? That the cost is increasing. So am I going to quote the sales price? No. I want to go look at the production costs. So now let's go look. Look how easy. Look how easy. The direct material cost per unit increased. Ne? Okay, the direct labor. Does the direct labor have anything to do with the fact that we imported material? No. It could, if you want to say now you need to have better trained workers, but don't go there. Rather go look at the selling and distribution. That went up. Okay. Let's go look at the fixed cost. They're only talking total. It went down. Okay. So which is the 2 that we are going to quote? They want 2, ne? Or do they want 1? They said 2 to 2. Provide figures to prove that he was correct. So you're going to say direct material cost increased 180 to 360. Okay? But they don't say how many figures. For me, I think this is already two marks.
By just saying what?
Yeah, I would do this. Because I can't see that you're just going to get 1 mark and 1 mark where you name and you shame. Doesn't make sense.
Then why did you say something about sales?
Yeah, your selling and distribution also went up, but that selling and distribution also doesn't really have any reason, because it's not distribution, is not getting the material into the country. It's delivering to the people who buy from you. So the only one there is the direct material. Okay, calculate the percentage increase in the selling price of the jackets. Now remember, it's the man in the hat, ne?
Man,
What?
2.5 multiplied the two.
She said it.
I did say then.
Yeah, but no, this is not.
Oh my word. Import in and delivery. Carriage.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the things I do. Okay, so it's the man in the hat. Remember, triangle means change. Okay? And the 0 means original. Or okay. So the change in the selling price, now if I go look, it's 1170 less 780, and the original was 780. Okay? So what's the change? It's going to be something 90. 390. Can you see how I do it?
Where do you do?
You guys, I want you to see what I do. This isn't maths where you have to go and rewrite every step. Okay? Remember, we are working against time. So what you do is you write your answer somewhere just there on the top. So now you're going to say 390 divided 780 times 100. So it's going to be 50. 50%. So it's a 50% increase. Okay? I want the difference in the price. Meaning the new price minus the old price. So it increased with 390 rand. And I want to divide it but by the original price, which was 780. You will always see the minus there. One of the two would be here at the bottom. If the price decreased, what would be the original? The 1170. Then it decreased with 50%. Why would the price decrease when we don't import anymore? And we now source from local.
Then it wouldn't have decreased if then it increased.
No, sweetie pie, I'm just explaining if it was the opposite than this.
Or isn't like the 117 would be oh.
It's the new one. This is the new price and this is the old price. So if I say to you, let's say swap, this was the old price and it decreased to 780. Then the 1170 would be at the bottom. And that would happen if we source locally now.
So the one at the bottom is the original price.
Yeah, the bottom. So change over original. The man in the hat. The one entering class now. The one with the hat. Okay. So next one. Explain the impact of the increase in the selling price, and they tell you on what. They want you to quote figures and calculations, all calculations, but look, they want you to comment on the sales and the profit. So, what are we going to do? If I look at the sales, the selling price increased from 780 to 1170. Okay, but let's look. What happened to the profit? Did they give me profit?
We can calculate the break-even. How much? We have not calculate, but See the difference between the production and the beginning.
Okay, so what you can do is you can see here we made a profit on 1,350 units. Ne? What happened here? We made a loss. Okay, so you will say here in 2020 made a profit on 1,350 units, but 21 made loss
That was a bad decision.
on how many units is that? Okay, so obviously something is wrong here. He misjudged his target market.
We
Hey?
lost customers.
Okay,
And you
so
can increase something by 50% overnight.
but it's a totally different type of jacket. The thing is, because he was previously already selling jackets and it was working, you know, maybe he should just have kept those jackets, and if he wanted to do the more expensive
And
ones,
another collection.
added it to that he's got two separate types of jackets.
That is, yes.
That might have made more sense. Okay, Telo wants to increase profits on jackets. Can you see here? By an additional 250,000 in the next financial year. Assuming the cost structure remains the same, calculate the total number of additional units he must produce to achieve his target. And I remember this year we had a very big fight about this. And so in the end they marked it in two ways. I say he made, so what I'm going to do is this, and I believe I am right.
Okay.
So, and you're going to hear that I am right.
Yes.
So what you're going to do is what we did in the previous one. You're going to take the 250,000, ne? You're going to divide it by the selling price per unit, less the variable cost per unit, ne? And you're going to get how many units?
They have questions.
You guys?
531.
531. Is this how many units I need? I'm asking you. I want to see if you understand this. Huh? 0.9. Okay, so it's actually 532. Now listen to me. I'm asking you again. If I produce 532 units more, will I make extra profit? How much must I still produce? Remember what I'm saying here. They're making a loss. We said there, they make a loss on 119 units. That loss still needs to be taken care of, ne? To work it to a break even, and then they can make 250. Does that make sense? So I added the 119 and it gave me what? 6.
You are right. What were they saying?
They were saying just the, okay, so the one half of the class would say 532 and the other half said 651. But it doesn't make sense to say only 532 because you've calculated, the question says to increase your profit. And at this stage, Sissa talking, we are not making a profit. So how can you increase your profit if you are making a loss? You first need to cancel out the loss before you can make a profit.
It's like living in overdraft.
Yeah.